Time is now 7:02, and I'd like to call the Beloit City Council meeting to order at this time. First order of business is roll call.
All councilors are present.
Second order is the Pledge of Allegiance. May we all stand, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Third item of business is special orders of the day and announcements. Item 3A, please.
We have a resolution designating Athletic Avenue with honorary name Fannie Byrd Avenue.
Fannie Byrd Avenue, there's a motion. Is there a motion for approval?
So
Motion by Forback. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Anderson. I'll take Anderson. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. At this time, Vice President Duncan will read the resolution or the proclamation.
Can we have Becky Kendall to come forward, please? She is the daughter of Fannie Byrd. Then I'll read the proclamation. Okay. Whereas the City Council of the City of Beloit has a history of recognizing distinguished residents who have made extraordinary contributions to the Beloit community, and whereas the honorary designation of street names publicly recognizes those exceptional residents, and whereas Fannie Byrd spent many years working as an election official for the City of Beloit, and whereas she was the founder of Back to Beloit Homecoming Reunion, and whereas Mrs. Byrd worked at the Turtle Creek swimming pool where she mentored many of the African American youth in the city, and whereas she was a longtime member of Emmanuel Baptist Church, served as financial secretary, and was a mother of the church, and whereas she was also a member of Church Women United, the Order of the Eastern Star, Rebecca Chapter 4, where she was a past worthy matron, and whereas she was instrumental in the development of the George Hilliard Park across the street from her home on Athletic Avenue, and whereas Fannie Byrd was born in Beloit, Wisconsin on July 23, 1921, and passed away on her birthday, July 23, 2017, at age 96. And whereas Fannie Byrd touched the lives of countless residents of the City of Beloit and is deserving of this special recognition. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beloit, Wisconsin, hereby designate Athletic Avenue to carry the honorary name Fannie Byrd Avenue. Be it further resolved that this change will result in the posting of signs mounted above the existing Athletic Avenue signs, and that the official name of the roadway shall not be altered, nor shall any addresses or other documentation be altered as a result of this honorarium. Adopted this 16th day of October 2017 from the Beloit City Council and Kevin Levy, City Council President. We are so honored to have you and your family here this evening, and so we would like for you just to share a few words with us.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Good evening, and I'd like to further explain some of the things that you've talked about in the proclamation. Giving acknowledgement to the dais, President Levy, City Manager Luter, Attorney Krieger, correct? Did I get that right? Okay. On behalf of our family, we are honored and privileged to accept this honorary street designation in recognition of our mother. Of importance to our mother was her family, her church, and her community. She loved Beloit, Emmanuel Baptist Church, and her family. So, to you all, what does that mean? For 90 years of her 96 years on this earth, Fannie Byrd was that lady on Athletic Street that people look to for confidence. A person who would do the right thing. But she didn't do it alone. She was instrumental in bringing the community together to acquire property across the street that was converted into a park. It was not about her. That park acknowledges another individual who lived on Athletic Avenue, and that was Dr. George Hilliard. From that, this 5-foot feisty woman who lived in the middle of the 1400 block on Athletic sought to bring together African American residents to celebrate their heritage. She founded the Back to Beloit, an African American reunion. Now, this special reunion has celebrated approximately 20 years. This is a 3-day celebration that's a gathering of family and friends and relatives where they renew relationships and tell stories about back in the day. So, you know, Fannie Byrd did that. From the spiritual leadership and grounding of her parents and grandparents, many of whom migrated to Beloit from the early 1900s, Fannie Byrd became the longest tenured member of Emmanuel Baptist Church, having served there more than 85 years. Throughout her membership at Emmanuel, she held several leadership positions, and she also was very active within the State General Baptist Convention. However, the highest honor one can bestow is her role as Fannie B, Mama, Grandma, Mrs. Byrd, Mother Byrd, and Fannie. This lady, our mother, was tough but mighty. She was married to our father, Raymond, for 60 years prior to his death in 2001. She enjoyed such activities as cooking, sewing, shopping, traveling, but most of all, being our parent, our mother. To her, we owe the glory this evening, but we share this award with you, the fabric of the community. You are the leaders, whether you live or lived on Athletic, East Grand, 4th Street, Broad, Hackett, Milwaukee Road, Liberty, or anywhere in Beloit. Like Mama, you believe in Beloit. She loved Beloit. I'd like to end with the following scriptural message. It's Philippians 2, verses 3 through 4. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interest of others. Thank you, City of Beloit. We are honored. We appreciate this honorary designation of our mother, Fannie Byrd Avenue. Thank you so very much.
And we don't want you to leave
Before she leaves, Becky,
Just a minute, Becky.
I'm going to ask Becky to remain there, and I'm also going to ask the rest of the children if they would come forward. We have a little gift for each one of them. I want to thank all of them, but especially thank Angie, who I've been working with this on for a while. And I told her that if her sisters decide to get anybody, I want them to go after her first. But it's a great honor to do this. So we have an official proclamation for each one of you, and then we have a prototype for the street name for each one of you. Awesome. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock is when they will actually put the sign up. So if anyone wants to take pictures, it'll be tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And then on Saturday from 1 until 3 o'clock at Emmanuel Baptist Church, there will be a reception for Mrs. Byrd in her honor from 1 to 3. So feel free to join us. And once again, thank all of you for coming out.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, that'll be really good.
Get the family. Let's get the family first. Let's let the family get in first. Family.
No, it's not very heavy. Hold it.
Get in there.
Yeah, you can hold it. Oh, okay, last one.
It's the last calendar year.
Item 4A is the 2018 Community Development Block Grant Proposed Budget and 2018 Annual Action Plan.
Mrs. Christensen.
And I'm going to recuse myself from this. Oh, did I? Okay, so tonight is the night for your public hearing for CDBG funding. And so this is the one budget, or one of two budgets that you guys haven't seen before. So we're going to start with what our sources of funding are. So there is there are four programs that generate program income, and they are the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund, Code Enforcement Program, the Housing Rehab Revolving Loan Fund, and Neighborhood Housing Services, or NeighborWorks Blackhawk Region. And those amounts are listed on the screen in red. We're estimating $162,475 available in program income. We are estimating an entitlement grant of $500,000. This is down from $550,000 that we projected for 17, due to the fact that at this point the federal budget shows CDBG zeroed out. And what we're hearing from our Community Development National Association is that they think there will be about a 10% cut. So we cut it to $500,000 for a total overall budget of $662,475. Just to remind you that there is a public service cap, which is set at $93,739. A planning and admin cap, 20% of your total budget at $132,495. And there's also a cap of 20% of the grant, which caps it as the grant, only $100,000 of the grant can be used towards that section of the budget. So this is the public service section. What we're showing you on the screen tonight is the request made by each of the agencies, the staff proposal that went to CDA, and then the CDA proposal that was approved. I just wanted to give you a little background because it kind of, we didn't get through the full point by point like we have in the past with CDA. So at the public comment period at CDA, there were a couple of agencies who came forward. Meals on Wheels made a pitch for some funding because we had zeroed them out. And ECHO came and spoke, and I believe HealthNet and Community Action came and spoke. The reason that the staff recommended zero for Meals on Wheels and Latino Service Providers Coalition is that you may recall we set a funding priority, and part of our funding priority this year focused on NARSA activities. So we were focusing on public service activities that met one of the NARSA objectives. And I think that Mr. Van de Bogart spoke on Meals on Wheels, and I think he made a good case for some funding. But we were a little concerned that they were fully funded, and then as a result, everyone else received less funding. So we wanted to at least show you what staff originally proposed, so you could kind of see that, and then also what CDA ended up recommending. I know Councilor Levy has had some, wanted some priority given to some homeless programs, so just to bring to your attention that Caritas Bridging the Shelter Gap for Homeless, ECHO, Rental Assistance Homeless Prevention, Family Promise, which is formerly known as the Hands of Faith Emergency Shelter for Homeless Families, and Family Services, which has to do with the victims of domestic violence, and Project 1649, which has Robin House Transitional Living Program. So there are a number of homeless programs on this list. And there are two new programs, which is, there's more than two. There's
Caritas, ECHO, and the Trey Foundation are new programs, with the Beloit Legal Access being the ability to have legal services locally for low-income people, which right now Legal Action does provide that service, but it's not locally provided. And then this slide shows you the CDA and staff proposal. We're in concurrence on the remaining funds, which are what we always call below the line, below that cap. And we are showing funding for our program administration. It is divided between the grant and the program income, which is due to a change in how they calculate those caps. And then there's money set aside for fair housing because we are required to do a fair housing analysis as part of our CDBG funding. And then there's funding set aside for code enforcement inspection, which is down somewhat because we actually kind of are ahead and behind on spending funding, so we don't need to fund it at the same level. And then that allows us to put $323,766 into our housing rehab revolving loan fund. The neighbor work section is just what they're bringing in money, as is the economic development revolving loan fund, which gives you a total budget of $662,475. And I want to remind you that also what you're having a public hearing on tonight is the annual action plan, which is the document that is really super thick, about 60 pages long. This is a template that's created by HUD. We fill in answers to the questions. The beginning page has an executive summary. Councilor Levy, you'll see that there's some information on homelessness. This is year 4 of a 5-year cycle. So the 5-year plan had the overall comprehensive strategy. This is really just business as usual, continue down the same path. The only change is kind of the change in the NARSA activities. And so tonight is the night scheduled for your public hearing. This was noticed in both the Beloit Daily News and the Shopper. And then you will take action on the CDBG budget on the same night that you take action on your other budgets. And with that, I will hold your here.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing on item 4A. Is there anyone wishing to speak on item 4A this evening? If so, feel free to step forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, President Levy. Jim Van de Bogart, 2091 Collingswood Drive here in the city. I'm appearing this evening and thanking, first of all, the Community Development Authority for putting monies back in to the Meals on Wheels program. A number of you are familiar with it. I won't recap all of it, but briefly, we serve 80 to 90 people a day, and there are 500 plus volunteers during the course of a year who deliver meals. 80% of those are within the city of Beloit. These meals allow seniors to stay in their homes with nutrition rather than go into other nursing facilities or medical facilities. Your CDA individuals chose to grant our request, and I would ask that you ratify that decision when you get to the budget point. From my time on the council, this was always one of the toughest decisions to make, how to allocate an inadequate amount of money to good people who are doing very good things. And having to prioritize those things is almost an impossible task. I would point out that if the worst case scenarios come to pass and the federal budget goes through as it may, not only would, and CDBG is zeroed out, but not only would Meals on Wheels lose that, but we would also lose $40,000 plus of federal funding that we currently do. So if you combine the two together, an $8,000 loss, a $40-some thousand loss, you're talking $50,000 out of approximately $300,000 budget for Meals on Wheels. So this is a vital program to your community. Those 200 people that we serve during the course of a year probably have no one else They don't have the neighbors who come by, the family who comes by, the churches come by. We're not doing charity stuff here, but we're doing what's left over, and nobody else is picking up the slack. So I would ask that you ratify or go along with the decision that the CDA made and keep that figure in for Meals on Wheels. Our Executive Director, Ellen Wiegand, is here if you have any specific questions that I can't address. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on item 4A this evening? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Steve Howland, 1617 Emerson Street in Beloit. I just want to make comment on the item number 13, one of the new items on public service, the Trey Foundation, Beloit Legal Access. In my work as chairperson of the Equal Opportunities Commission in Beloit, I've come across numerous instances of the tremendous need for some kind of legal assistance for people. So I know nothing particularly other than some positive comments from staff about the Trey Foundation, but I can assure you that legal need exists. A lot of people out there just don't know how to navigate the system, don't know where to go. The Tenant Resource Center in Madison has kind of 3 levels. One if you live in Madison, second if you live in Dane County, and third if you're in Wisconsin. And so they have had cutbacks recently as well. So the assistance that they're able to provide, especially in a timely manner, is often strained. So there is a great need, as there is in all these other cases. But I celebrate the fact that that has been included.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak under item 4A? Second call, anyone wishing to speak under item 4A this evening? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak under item 4A this evening? Seeing none, I would close the public hearing on item 4A and go to 4B, please.
Item 4B is the 2018 Home Investment Partnership Proposed Budget, and we'll see if we can get Counselor Duncan back in.
Thank you. Ms. Christensen.
So the city of Beloit is part of the Rock County Home Consortium. So we are a member, Rock County's a member, and Janesville. And as a result of that, we are allocated a certain amount of money each year. So for 2018, we are estimating that the city will receive $120,000 in new home grant funds and about $13,285 in home administrative dollars. That's assuming a slight decrease in funding and that they would fully fund it, even though that is also zeroed out the federal budget. In addition, we anticipate using $69,730 in 2017 program income. They have changed the rules on the use of program income, so they allow you to bank for a year and use the following year. 17 was the first year that we could bank some funds. We budgeted $100,000 in program income for use in 17, which we did use, and so this is above and beyond what we received, the $100,000 we anticipated receiving, and then $195,000 in prior year funds. We do still have some older grant funds because we were getting payoffs through our loan program as the housing conditions improved and sales occurred. We did get some kind of significant payoffs on some of those home loans, which then allowed us to, we spent that program income first and then got to our grant dollars. Now this new system will allow us to bank those dollars in the future, which will spend those grant dollars down more quickly. The CDA recommended using up to $120,000 of the total funds allocated for 2018 for owner-occupied rehab loans, with the remaining balance to be used for acquisition rehab projects. And as we approve acquisition rehab projects, as you approved 310 and 349, those would come through you for approval as those projects move forward. The $120,000 that is set aside would just be owner-occupied loans that Christy would work through the program. And tonight is the night to do the public hearing on the budget, and then this will also be on your agenda for action with your other budget items.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing on item 4B. Is there anyone wishing to speak on item 4B this evening? Second call, anyone wishing to speak on item 4B this evening? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak on item 4B this evening? Seeing none, I'd move to item 4C, please.
4C is the 2018 operating, library, and capital improvements proposed budgets.
Mr. Miller.
Good evening. So 2 weeks ago, I presented you with the 2018 operating and capital budget. And since then, we have posted that budget on our City of Beloit website, as well as having a workshop with you all last Monday, where we extensively went through the budget in detail in order for you to ask questions and get those questions answered. There have been no changes to the proposed document since the conclusion of the workshop. And so with that being said, I will just run through some summary slides before we open up the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this is the proposed budget public hearing. So the City of Beloit increased its overall budget of all funds by about 10.13% over last year, which was approximately $9.7 million. And as we see later on in the next slide, you'll see that the majority of that is due to the increase in the capital improvement funds. The general fund is at $31.1 million, and it is an increase of 0.65% or about $200,000 over last year's budget. The enterprise funds actually saw a decline of about $455,000 in budgeted revenue, and that was due to the fact that we had budgeted an increase in our water utility rates of about 15%. The Public Service Commission came back and approved on average of a 7% increase, so therefore the change in the budgets from 2017 to 2018 is actually a decline in revenue. So here's the slide that I was just speaking of. It just summarizes all of the fund as fund types. And you can note in the capital improvement budget that there's the $9.7 million increase, which makes up just about all of the increase in the overall budget. That is primarily due to increased revenue bonds that will be issued early part of next year for our water and our sewer utility. So some of the budget highlights that went into this year's budget. The Public Works Department is actually in the middle of a restructuring or a reorganization. We are actively recruiting the Public Works Director as we speak, so some of those funds will most likely occur in 2018. So there was a little bit of carryover from a budget standpoint there. The vacant Director of Operations and the Parks and Leisure Services Director will be addressed as part of that complete reorg of the Public Works Department. So over the last few years, we have kept positions open in order to balance our budgets, and so just like we did last year, we try to make an effort to get some of those positions funded back when we can. And one of the ways we did that this year was in our IT staff. We added an additional half FTE to the 2018 budget, and we added that to the unfilled half FTE that we put in the 2017 budget in order to give us one full FTE. We just found that half an FTE wasn't going to be sufficient enough to get the needs satisfied of the IT department, so we added that additional half FTE to make that one full position next year. One of the other additions was in the city manager's department. That is the director of strategic communication, and that FTE basically took the place of the FTE of the assistant to the city manager, which became vacant in 2015. So it's been a few years since that position has been filled. One of the major program changes was the rental registration certificate fee. We did eliminate that fee in 2017, and that was replaced with the voluntary complaint-based and systematic rental inspection program. Some further highlights, we have a 1% across the board cost of living increase, as well as a 5% employee contribution of health insurance premiums. That is for all non-represented employees. Shared revenue and expenditure restraint, those are two of the big state-funded programs. We have not seen an increase in either of those two programs in over a decade. So we're thankful that they have not been decreased at all. However, over the last decade plus, we know that inflationary costs have increased, and we haven't seen that on the increase side in those revenues. So that is unfortunate. We also have seen a decline in the Department of Transportation aids, or the highway aids that we've received in the city over the last 3 years. We are expecting another decline of about $60,000 in 2018. One of the major shifts in the state budget this year is the shift in personal property tax. The state is starting to phase out personal property tax beginning in 2019, but it's important to the 18 number because that becomes one of the base numbers that they will use as reimbursement. So if that number were to go down in 18, then that's going to be further tying our hands as we move forward. Net new construction decreased to 0.85 from 2.31. 0.85 is still a decent number for net new construction, but we've just had 2 really good years in a row of growth, so it just seems a little bit lower, but it's actually a pretty decent number. Net new construction is what helps to drive our levy limits, which we still are under the state. Assessed values have decreased 1%, while equalized values have increased by 0.03%. Assessed values are assessed by the local assessor. The equalized values are assessed by the state. As you'll see later on in one of the slides, those two numbers with the decline of assessed value, they've come right in line with what the equalized values are that have been set by the state. So they're actually right in line with each other. The local portion of the levy increased $289,000, which is 1.96%. And again, that is legislated by the levy limit still by the state. Some of the fees that we took a look at this year, the wastewater utility is proposing a 3% increase in the rates. Again, that is primarily due to increased costs in infrastructure, so those will primarily be used to fund critical infrastructure projects in the wastewater utility. The same would be said for the water utility as well. We did request the 15% from the state. They came back and allowed only a 7%. However, we will be doing a utility revenue bond at the beginning part of next year, as I mentioned earlier. So some of the increase in the fees will be used to pay for the debt service on those utility revenue bonds. The plan is to then go back for a rate increase or a rate case in 2018 in hopes to have a new rate in place by January of 2019. The ambulance fund is proposing raising the ambulance fees. That is designed to help offset the costs that are associated with providing that service. And that goes for all of the programs that we have at the City of Beloit, which is the last bullet point there, that we analyze all program fees every year to see if they are achieving the ability to offset some of those costs, and we try to make those adjustments so that they offset as much of the cost as we can. This is the proposed levy. You can see the 1% decrease in the assessed value that I just mentioned, and you can also see at the bottom the increase in the overall rate of 21.7 cents per thousand of assessed value. Here's a graphical representation of where we've been over the last 5 years of our local tax rate. You can see the increase there over the years. That goes along with the increase in the property tax levy. As the levy increases, the assessed values tend to increase, but not enough to bring that rate down. But if you look at the total difference over those last 4 years of increases, it's about a little over 6 to 6.5% total increase from 2013 to 2018, which is just barely over 1.5% per year, which is pretty reasonable on average. Here's the graph I was talking about earlier on the equalized and assessed values. You can see in 2017 they're virtually identical. So the next steps tonight is the public hearing, and the next step would be to bring this budget back to council on November 6th for your consideration for adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing on item 4C. If there's anyone wishing to speak on item 4C this evening, please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Tim Curtis, 2610 Chatsworth Drive, here in the city. Good evening, councilors. I'm here this evening to address the issue of staff reduction in the City of Beloit Fire Department. I'm here speaking from the perspective of a lifelong citizen of Beloit, but also as a recently retired chief officer of the Beloit Fire Department. First and foremost, cutting staffing in a department that has been understaffed for many years will reduce the quality of life in Beloit. Response times to structure fires, car accidents, water rescue, and all requests for fire suppression needs will increase. Response times to emergency medical service requests will increase and decrease the chance of successful intervention and survival from serious illness and injury. Successful advanced cardiac life support provided by our paramedics is measured in seconds, not minutes. As a resident and property owner, I'm very concerned about the potential liability the City of Beloit is placing itself in for not providing a fully staffed emergency service. From the perspective of a former firefighter, paramedic, and chief fire officer, there are those out there that will tell you cutting staffing will have no adverse effect on emergency response. We can just use mutual aid. I think there's a great deal of misconception about mutual aid and MABUS, the mutual aid box alarm system. MABUS was developed and designed to provide a predetermined cache of resources to communities experiencing a large-scale incident. The City of Beloit signed the MABUS agreement in 2001. Contained in that agreement is a clause stating no community will use MABUS as first response to emergencies occurring within their community. However, the City of Beloit has used MABUS and mutual aid as initial response more and more every year. Additionally, each time a mutual aid ambulance responds into the City of Beloit, we are losing revenue for that hospital transport. Don't get me wrong, we are very fortunate to have such highly trained mutual aid partners willing to assist when they are available. But the point is, when they are available. These departments have their own communities to protect. The other issue with consistent reliability on mutual aid is obviously response time. These resources are not strategically located to respond to various locations throughout the City of Beloit. So when our citizens are experiencing a life-threatening cardiac event or illness, it is again seconds that make the difference between life and death. This is a clear quality of life concern. I can tell you as a chief fire officer who also worked as a shift commander responsible for assigning resources to each emergency response requested in the city for 16 years, the number of times there was absolutely no resources available to respond to fire and EMS emergencies increased every year. This is a very serious liability to the city. As an incident commander, it's a sickening feeling being alone at a structure fire or just with one engine awaiting a mutual aid company to arrive and lay a water supply line, and having to make the decision to pull my crew out of the structure and away from primary search of trapped people because we are running out of water. Under Wisconsin Administrative Code SPS 330.14, the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services, it states, quote, "Every fire department shall provide sufficient personnel to safely conduct emergency scene operations and limit such operations to those that can be safely performed by personnel available at the scene." Furthermore, under paragraph 3, rescue of members, that's where the 2 in and 2 out law exists. Meaning you have to have 2 firefighters in the structure in full SCBA or self-contained breathing apparatus with a charge hand line, 2 outside the structure in case something goes wrong or a rescue must be made, whether it be a civilian or a firefighter. This is the reason that NFPA designed 1710 and the 4-person engine company. When the engine arrives, they are ready to go to work with rescue and suppression activities. I can tell you from experience, pulling someone incapacitated from a structure wearing 75 plus pounds of gear strapped to your back in superheated, highly toxic, and a blind environment takes more than 2 people. I don't care if you're 25 or 50, it's like running a marathon in a matter of minutes. When those activities are completed, your firefighters are in no condition to return to rescue or suppression duties. They must be rehabbed, rehydrated, and medically monitored. Additional personnel must be in place to continue operations. What are the benefits for not providing a fully staffed department, fire and EMS service? The city could potentially save money. But let's look at the long-term effect on our firefighters. This is a very dangerous occupation. The chance of injury in a fully staffed department is high. The chance of injury or death in an understaffed department is much higher. Nationwide, firefighters suffer high rates of heart disease and cancer. Increasing the physical duties of your employees increases the potential of injury or illness and increasing the cost to the city. The psychological effect of this job leads to high rates of PTSD, and PTSD is not kind. Increasing exposure to highly stressful situations by not providing a fully staffed emergency medical service increases PTSD with your employees and increases the symptoms of PTSD. Symptoms such as physical illness, poor morale, anxiety, substance abuse, and suicide. These items can cost a great deal to remediate. In this period of time where we are trying to reduce insurance costs, we are putting our employees in more harm's way and placing them into potentially more injury and illness. Cutting staffing in a period of high turnover due to retirement is dangerous ground. We just this year are losing over 200 years of experience in a department. Less firefighters means less programs like public education to our children and their families. These programs have proven to decrease community fire risk and increase safe behavior in the homes. In closing, in the October 5th edition of the Beloit Daily News, an article entitled "Robust Year for Beloit's Development" quoted Building and Planning Services Director Drew Pennington, who stated, "As of September 1st, 533 permits for construction and renovation have been issued by the city, equating to a value of $14.8 million. Mr. Pennington stated that the figure will nearly double by the end of this year. These and additional projects include the State Line Family YMCA at $11 million, the Powerhouse Project at $38 million, G5 Brewery, Holiday Inn, which is a 6-story, 124-room project, 102-room Home 2 Suites, residential development including 22 lots planned for construction in Eagles Ridge, 24 in the Oaks, and a 42-unit condominium project on Cadillac Drive, and a 58-unit addition in the Hawks Ridge. This is all wonderful news for Beloit. These additions will bring more visitors, additional population, and revenue. These additions will require additional fire protection and emergency services. I'm here tonight because I care about this community, and I really care about the quality of life. But I also care about the department. I was honored to serve as a firefighter and paramedic. I care about each and every member of the department, and the very last thing I want to attend is a funeral for a fallen Beloit firefighter. I know that sounds extreme, but that is the reality of the job. If anyone wants to contact me and discuss these things personally, you can call the fire department for my number.
Okay.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak under item 4C this evening? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Scott Smith. I live at 5704 Longest Drive, and I am the current president of Local 583, the firefighters. I don't come before you tonight to criticize or to preach. We come before you tonight to offer about what we believe is a viable solution to the current situation that we're in. I'd first like to begin by saying last Tuesday I was honored to march with the firefighters in Milwaukee. We marched on City Hall. They had their press conference, draw a lot of attention. It was a good day. At the conclusion of it, they turned to me and said, "Do we come to Beloit?" I said, "No, we don't. I don't believe that is necessary. I believe we have what it takes to solve our problem, and I don't believe that that's going to get anything done." Let me first begin by about a month ago, you received a copy of our GIS mapping study in the mail. I have not received any feedback from anybody, so I'm assuming that it has been read and you understand it. I believe you received an electronic copy. I have a printed copy for you. The sole purpose of that document was just to help educate and inform what the national standard is and how it pertains to us here in the city of Beloit. That's it. Seeing that there was no questions and based on the information that was in there, I have to believe that you understand how our ambulance staffing works. We currently have 4 ALS ambulances in the city of Beloit. We staff 2 of them. One of them is staffed currently with a cross-staffing configuration with Engine 1. Our 4th ambulance does not go out the door when there is a minimum staffing requirement of 15. We just don't have the personnel to do it. Chief Liggett issued a directive last April identifying this, stating that when we're at 15 people, we can't give up our fire trucks for that 4th ambulance. Now, you ask yourself, how many days a year do you think we're at 15? It's usually between 250 and 300 days a year that we meet that requirement. We just can't do it. Last Monday, I had the pleasure of sitting through your budget proposal, and there is a proposed increase to our EMS fees. Now, that proposed increase, I believe, is projected at anywhere $300,000 or more. There was talk last week about moving an ambulance replacement from our CIP budget over to our enterprise fund. I get it and I understand. Like I said, I was in Milwaukee. This situation is not unique to Beloit. It's not unique to any one particular community throughout Wisconsin. Until things change in Madison, we're going to be continuing to do this year after year after year. What we are proposing is to take that extra revenue and push out that ambulance replacement. The fact that we have to replace, or we're looking at replacing an ambulance that we cannot push out the door, just doesn't make any sense to us. If we can push that out, we can solve 19's problem and we can start working on 20's problem. The SAFER grant is currently projected to run out, I believe, on April 18th or somewhere in that neighborhood. Those 3 positions are already funded at 25% or better through that time. We get a chance to maybe move 3 positions over to that enterprise fund at a cost of 75 cents on the dollar. We solve our problems for 2019 and we start working, or 2018, and then we can start working on 19. It may work, it may not be a viable solution for 5 years or a long term, but it gets us to where we need to be, at least one step closer, instead of taking us further away. I think it's a viable solution. I applaud Chief Liggett and his staff. They've been working hard on trying to solve a problem with the zero impact to that general fund. I get it. We all understand. Every city service that is offered is valuable to every city of Beloit resident. No one is less important than everybody else. So we're trying to find a way to bridge that gap to continue to provide the top-notch service to everybody in the city of Beloit who dials 911. And this at least gets us in that same direction, moves us in that direction. I appreciate Chief Curtis, your comments tonight. It's always good to see the retirees when they come back. Obviously, retirement has been treating you well. I encourage all of you, stop by the fire stations, have some coffee, say hello, get to know the guys and the girls that are protecting the city. Ask questions. It's not easy sitting up there. I get it. I understand. These decisions are not easy, and I don't see them getting any easier in the future. We're just offering a solution to bridge that gap in 2018. We've, as Chief Curtis mentioned, we've gotten to an aging department. We'll have 9 people leaving this year and probably another 10 to 15 on the doorstep for next year, if not the year after. So I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, you all have my contact information. I look forward to working with you and solving this problem.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak under item 4C? Second call, anyone wishing to speak under item 4C? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak under item 4C this evening? Seeing none, I would close the public hearing on that item and move to item 5, public comments. I do have a person that filled out a form. I will call that name. This is a time on the agenda where citizens may come forward to speak on anything that's not on the agenda. I do ask you to refrain from personal attacks on staff, on counselors, or anyone. I do ask you also to refrain the use of names. I consider that a personal attack. If individuals do come down and do any personal attacking, I will ask you to sit down immediately. We do have a time limit of 3 minutes. I will not cut you off right at 3 minutes, but I'll give you a friendly reminder as you're approaching that time. Right now, we have one person that filled out a form. If you did not fill out a form and still would like to speak under citizens' participation, this is your time to do it. The first person that we have is Susan Meyer. State your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Susan Meyer. I live at 1915 Poff.
Okay.
I went to a meeting. It was a citizens committee meeting. In fact, there was one person on your board that was there, and he told me that I should really speak at this meeting. So what I'm speaking about is domestic violence. I'm a domestic violence advocate on that meeting with Clinton's on that same board or same meeting committee. The reason I'm here is I'm disappointed in how a home invasion was handled. And I did talk to 4 police officers, and on Saturday, it was actually on the date of the 19th, I reported some items stolen. And I won't mention the name of who I talked to, but I was told that it would probably be joint property. And 2 things weren't joint property. One was my Boost Bar medicine, which is for anxiety, and the other was a post office box key that was on the key ring. And I think it's significant that I was lied to by a person that there was a police report. And I checked today, and there is no police report. In fact, a DA investigator was contacted by Kim in victim witness in Janesville that there was no police report. And that was the first that I had heard that there was no police report. And I really think that there should have been a police report, and I don't think I should be lied to by a city administrator that there was a police report that she read. So that's why I'm before you. I think that domestic violence should be taken seriously. I have a 4-year restraining order, and that's what I have to say. I've also talked to Domestic Violence Center, and they said they've run into this problem frequently, and I just think that it should be addressed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. President, if I may, I will publicly apologize for not distinguishing the difference between call notes and a formal police report. There were detailed call notes relating to the incident that was reported, and I misspoke and suggested that was a report, which was taken to be a formal police report, and I do apologize for that. But that in no way is an indication of how we perceive or treat any kind of domestic violence cases. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, I guess what I want to do, City Manager Luther, then if I can refer this to you and the chief and see if there's any other information that needs to be looked into or addressed, and just kind of give us a follow-up and just say whether it was solved or we did a further investigation on that. So if you could do that and kind of get back to me, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak under citizens' participation this evening? Third and final call, anyone wishing to speak under citizens' participation? Seeing none, I would close that portion of the agenda and move to item 6.
Item 6 is a consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be acted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless you remove this from an item from the agenda, and there are just 2 items this evening.
Is there anyone like anything removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of items 6A and 6B. Is there a motion for approval?
Second.
Yes, motion by Blakely, second by Duncan. All those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, 6 passes. Item 7, please.
Item 7 is a resolution approving 2017 to 19 applicants for alcohol beverage operators licenses between the period of September 22nd and October 6th of 2017. You have 11 applicants before you this evening, all of them being recommended for approval.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Preschel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Forbach. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Passes. Item 8.
There are no ordinances this evening.
Item 9.
Under appointments this evening, all appointments will be taken by one motion unless you wish to have one removed. The appointments this evening are to the Landmarks Commission, incumbent Chris Gallagher to a term ending October 31st, 2020, incumbent Stephen Truesdale to a term ending October 31st, 2020. The Municipal Golf Committee, Gerald Hoey, replacing Edward Armstrong as the Men's Club representative. This is an ex officio member.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Duncan. Is there a second? Second by Preschel. Comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Passes 7-0. Item 10, council activities and upcoming events. Councilor Beth. I just drew a blank on your last name there. Sorry. Jacobson.
Jacobson.
Okay.
I'll be brief. I went to the Freedom March at Beloit College and, well, at the high school and then to Beloit College with Counselor Levy and had a great time and was inspired by Beloit College students as always. And then, what day is today? Monday. So I guess Saturday I went to the BIF and Beloit Library Foundation event and both were a good time. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you. I've been kind of unable to do a lot of things. I've had some family issues come up. I had someone in my family pass recently, so I've been a little busy with that. But besides that, I did attend a town hall with Congressman Mark Pocan. Mark Preschel was at the meeting too, and it was pretty well attended for it being at like 1 o'clock on a Monday. And a lot of different topics came up. I think most of you probably can assume what stuff came up in a congressional town hall. I don't need to go into too much detail. But upcoming events, if you have a child, we have hockey season coming up. I'm a youth coach at the Beloit Youth Hockey Association. In the upcoming weeks, we'll actually have a Try Hockey free event, and I got to get back on the date. I know it'll be after the next meeting, so then hopefully I can come back with an official time and date. So it's free to do it. You don't have to have any interest in signing up. It's just if you want the kid to try it. I think every kid should get a chance to try it. It's definitely a fun activity, but I'm a little biased. And that's pretty much all I have.
Councilor Blakely.
I just wanted to remind everybody that on Thursday, October 26th, which is a week from Thursday, the NAACP is holding its annual banquet, and tickets are still available. They have a terrific speaker coming. It's a great community event, and everyone is welcome. You don't have to be a member. Thanks.
Councilor Forbach.
Well,
Turn me up. There you go.
here I am. I've been gone for quite a while, and I guess I just want to mention that I was appalled at the things I missed. Not only information and meetings for the council, but the walking bridge is in, the Y is opened, Family Services lunch, I guess, had a great speaker, and the library fundraiser also that's already been mentioned. So I just want to reiterate that sometimes if you leave Beloit, you're missing a lot of things. Thanks.
Councilor Preschel.
Well, aside from the things that were already mentioned, the real deal on Saturday night and Representative Pocan's town hall this afternoon was very interesting. We had the bridge got installed after our workshop, and I managed to be late for the workshop, and I got out quick and got down there right as they dropped into place, so that was good last Monday. Coming up on Tuesday the 24th will be the Hope Park community meeting at Merrill Community Center. To Hope Park Playground is due to be replaced, and we have two finalists in the design category, so we always get together and have a meeting with the public and the neighborhood to help choose the final design for that playground. So that's coming up on the 24th at 6 p.m. at the Merrill Community Center. That's a Tuesday. And then MSNBC was in town last week filming more about downtown Beloit. So we'll be featured on MSNBC sometime in the spring, I guess. That's cool. So that'll be kind of neat. Yeah. So that's all I have for tonight. Then I guess looking forward to next meeting with you guys.
Thank you.
Oh, that's what I did want to say something. It came up with the Pocans meeting this afternoon. April 1st, 2018 will mark the 20th anniversary of the announcement of the casino proposal for Beloit. So coming up is that milestone date, and I reminded him of that and to file that away for his reference, and if there's anybody he can talk to, please do so. It'd be nice to have that anniversary observed in some way, shape, or form, and with positive news perhaps, that'd be great. So anyway, I did mention that to him today, and I bring it up here because I was checking the archives. And Clinton, I'm sure it's okay if you get your hair cut at Austin's now, even though I found the post that your mom said he shouldn't go there because of all the gossip that goes on. You were a little younger then.
I can't follow that. Vice President Duncan.
Am I on now? Okay. On October 12th, I had the chance to go to the Women's Fun Luncheon at the Beloit Club. There was a speaker, Dr. Joy, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Ippolito, who raised our awareness of human trafficking in our backyard. She was a former domestic violence survivor who shared the parallels with trafficking. She also shared with us her story and how both issues involve victimization, but that you can survive them. It made me very happy that we have a group like the Women's Fund and State Line Community Foundation who are making sure that we are meeting the needs of those facing these life challenges, because it does take a village. At the beginning of the Women's Fund Luncheon, there was an announcement made that Sandra Kincaid will be stepping down from the Women's Fund Board. I would like to give special thanks to Sandra for all her volunteerism and hard work that she has put in through the years. Sandra Kincaid wrote the initial grant for the Women's Fund, and because of her efforts to stop victimization, many women and children in our community will have the opportunity to live healthier lives. So thank you, Mrs. Kincaid, if you're watching. Also, I would like to ask that our citizens please consider serving on a city committee, because we have quite a few vacancies. We talked about that at our appointment review committee meeting. The application is very simple. It's on our city's website. Also there's a description of each commission also. You can volunteer on one of these committees and make our city even better. Also, tomorrow, Family Services will have a dedication of the Serenity Garden from 11:30 a.m. to 12:30 in honor of victims of child abuse, sexual assault, and domestic violence. It's wonderful that we have a safe place where people can go to reflect and embrace life. I'm looking forward to being there tomorrow, and I hope that you will be there too. In addition, Halloween is coming up, October 31st. The trick-or-treat hours are from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. I know that the chief sent out a press release of the do's and don'ts, so please be careful and keep your children safe. Lastly, I would like to say that I'm happy that I was honored to be here tonight and join in with everybody in our celebration of Fannie Byrd. It was great to see her family, her church family, and friends come out tonight. This is a testament to how much she was loved and admired. I knew Mother Byrd personally and will never forget her kindness and her beautiful smile. She was a woman that truly cared about all people and has an everlasting legacy in our Beloit community. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple things to piggyback on Councilperson Jacobson's remarks about the Freedom March. I met her at Beloit College. I did drive by Beloit and was going to actually get out and join the walk, but I couldn't find them, so I just got to the college and waited. But one of the things that we did, I know it was rainy too, but one of the things that we encourage the Beloit College students to do is get involved in Beloit community, and also to Beloit. If you have committees or something that you would need students on, go to seek out Beloit College students. We want them to become part of the community in which they're here for 4 or 5 years. So we want them to be involved. I encourage them, I challenge them. So if you see them coming out, I encourage them to get off campus, come and check out everything that's going on in the city. And so hopefully we will see that. I asked them to get involved in the schools as well. And then if they are doing things at the college, I've asked them to at least show up here to let us know about it, so we can include them in what goes on in Beloit. The other thing, I want to thank the chief for a wonderful swearing-in ceremony of the officers, and the pinning of the officers, and very well done, and I wanted to commend you. And then also, because I promised Julie that I would do this, it's not often that we have our children in the audience with us, so in due fashion, like I always like to do, Julie's son is here with his class, so I told him before we were going to embarrass him, so we might as well I'm a man of my word, so welcome you and your class here. And Julie, while you were giving your presentation, I'm also a tattletale, so while you were giving your presentation, I just looked at him and he was over there yawning, so I just wanted to put that out there. I don't know if he's tired or sleepy, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there, and because as parents, we have to stick together. It takes a village to raise a kid, so when your kid is doing something where you're not around or you're not paying attention, I just think it's right for other parents to kind of point that out. So welcome to the city council meeting, and I'm sure you will be happy to come to another one. So, but not only him, but I want to thank all the students for being here. We're glad to have you here. Please, we say this all the time, but get involved. The only way we know what you want to do is you have to come down here and let us know. We're all getting old down here, whether they want to agree with it or not. But the future of Beloit is in your hands. So if you really want something, don't sit at home or sit amongst your friends and say, the city has nothing for us to do. Come down here and challenge us and with some ideas and say, hey, have you thought about this? But come down here and challenge us and get involved. You all right, man? We all right? We pray. Okay. Just want to make sure.
There's an opening on the Parks and Rec.
There's an opening on the Parks and Rec, so.
There you go, guys.
Don't everybody speak at one time, so. But I want to thank you all for coming out here. It's truly appreciative. So with that, we would go to item 12, reports from boards and city officers. Now, before we actually entertain a motion to go into closed session for 12A, I would like to say, and I'm going to look to the city clerk to help me out with this, I would like to take at least a 3-minute recess, so at least we can sign the papers for the students so they don't have to wait, and then go into closed session. Should we do that and then make the motion, or can we make the motion, go into the recess? What is the proper procedure on that?
Just identify that you're doing that.
Okay. Everybody got that? So item 12A, we will be going into closed session after a 3-minute recess. Is there a motion to that effect?
So
motion by Duncan. There's a second. Second by Preschel. All those in favor to that, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? After the 3-minute recess, we'll be in closed session. Thank you. At this time, I would like a motion to go back into open session. Motion by Duncan, is there a second? Second by Blakely. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we're back in open session. Item 12B, please.
12B, you have a resolution authorizing the sale of 705 Brook Street.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Duncan, is there a second? Second by Jacobson. All those in favor of approval of 12B, selling of 705 Brook Street, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that matter is closed. 12C, please.
Make a motion to go in closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Preschel, second by Forbeck to go into closed session. And we will not be coming back, correct, Madam Clerk?
Correct.
We will not be coming back. So all of you who are here, you can go home now. So, thank you.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.